quick question in regards to the door. Is it going to be like a standard looking, or do we think it's going to be a little bit old fashioned? Like, what are your thoughts?
So there's kind of two ways at it, which is either the door has a very definite look that immediately tells you it does not belong in this space, or part of what the door does is it hides in plain sight, right? Too, which, is more complicated, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways because why not? Is that in the beginning, like in the first, frames and stuff like that, it looks like a normal door, right? And then once Sam is like, "Oh, that I don't remember that door being there," and goes to open it, then over the course of the next few pages, it kind of reveals itself, right? Like it starts to look older, it starts to look creepier, it starts
Mm,
to whatever. Like it's almost like it was hiding there, and then when Sam realized it was there, it was like, "Well, I'll show you who I really am before it
mm.
finally opens for them." Or we pick one or the other.
Yeah, so that kind of thing is a little bit harder to show in a thumbnail
100%.
until you get like a close up.
On, like, page 3 where we have the panels where it's, like, day, night, maybe there's subtle things that change, so by the time you look from the first door to the last door, it's like, "Ooh, things have shifted in it," right? Like, it maybe starts to look it's got a bit more of a face, it looks a little bit older, like something, has happened in that moment. Because then it becomes a little bit more obvious that it went from, this to this as Sam kind of descended a bit into madness.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I think that especially since it almost feels like it's like an animated, right? Like because you're
Exactly.
because it's this almost the same, panel just repeated, it does give the vibe of it being if you were to look at it very quickly, that it's you would because that's really what the eye is gonna do. It's gonna because there's not really any, I don't believe that we have any kind of, dialogue here, as far as I remember. So it's more of like looking at it as if it's like animated. So yeah, it could slowly almost like change a little bit.
Mhm.
And the door can almost have like I have it here. If you look at it, it almost looks like it's like um, moving a little bit because of the way that the
Exactly.
light and the shadow are on it. But I could also make it warp a little bit too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just think that would be a really good place to kind of hit that point, right? Where it's like you can really see that as Sam is like day, night, with this door, that the door is feeding off of that, right? And almost getting
mm,
stronger or something from it. Um, because like we've said before, the door kind of becomes the main character by the time that we get to the end of page 5, right? So having the door,
mm.
as Sam goes this way, the door kind of goes this way. Could be neat. Could be a neat visual.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I like that idea. I think that having it just subtly change or playing around with like what is it that I can make the door emote, I guess
Yeah.
is the best way of looking at it. Um, and then um, it'll be more obvious, I think, when we because here's the other thing too. Do you wanna like as the writer like when you're writing a story, think about what are the rules like explain that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're creating any kind of a universe, you need to have the rules of what can and cannot happen in this space, especially if there is something that has a bit of a supernatural or, metaphysical aspect to it. It always has to have some level of parameter. Otherwise, it just becomes too unpredictable and therefore not believable, right? If it can do absolutely anything, then you stop believing that it can do anything, right? It just becomes like, oh, okay, so it's just pure magic and we're just going to, suspend disbelief in every direction now. So you need to make sure that once you establish, if we establish that the door, once it finds you, it begins to suck your soul essentially and change until it opens and eats you, however we want to put it or word it, then that needs to be what happens anytime that this door appears, right? We can't then, on panel or page 6, when it's somewhere completely different, have it start at that end frame because that doesn't make sense to, the rules we've established for how this door works. Same with the clock. If we decide that the clock is going to be attached to the door, then we can't have a door appear without the clock, right? So we have to just decide, and rules are changeable up until the end. Which is what we're deciding right now is like we haven't really discussed if the door has any specific rules around it other than it's in the space, it will not open, and when it does open, only it is to eat you, essentially. But once we establish the rules of it, then we have to stick to them. And that's a really important document to kind of have alongside your scripts. If you have something with complicated rules, especially, you want to make sure that those are noted so that you make sure that you don't do anything that contradicts them because people pick that up really fast. Those are when you like, plot hole, right? That's usually when something has broken its own rules. And it happens, and you do your best to avoid it. And sometimes you have to fix the rules in order to meet where the plot is actually going, but you have to know what they are in order to break them.
Well, I'm going to talk about The Walking Dead. One of the big rules was any of the main characters can die at any moment for a good 6 seasons. And then the seventh season, I think it was the seventh season, one of the main characters who'd been around since the beginning, uh, they basically were bit, right? And then, or they were supposed to have died or whatever, and then they brought them back. And it was one of those things where like, "Oh, really? Man," like, the way that they had them go was so like, is heartbreaking as it was so, like, epic, and it just really they sent that
Yeah.
character out on a high, and I loved it, and then they brought them back, and you're like, "Oh, man, I
You
just
ruined
can't
your own
now
rules.
you changed the rule on me, and I don't like it, and now I can't really watch it without going, well, that doesn't mean now it means any character can come back, like, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean anything anymore. There's no,
Yes.
like, um, like, ending. It's all what you could all, like, retro, you know, just retrofit it so that it works to continue the story because now it feels like you're milking it for cash, right? That's really what it was. It was that kind of feeling. Oh, you just want to keep on making more money and going with more season, all that stuff.
Well,
Anyway,
and that's often when shows, for example, do start breaking their own rules is when they've kind of outlived that central, like, plot area, and they're like, "Now what do we do?"
like well, with writing, you have to be careful with that. Like, do you find have written anything and then realized after that you're like, "Ooh, I there's a huge like I changed one of my own rules and didn't even realize it." Like, has that ever happened?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is something, especially when you start writing into like a fantasy based thing, that you really have to be aware of your own rules because sometimes what happens is you get into the story and you get into the plot and you're like, oh, this is so cool. This is great. And you just start kind of spiraling down a hill. And then when you stop, you realize, ooh, hold on a second. Somewhere in there, we did something that I said this character would never do. And then you have to back up and see how much you can correct it and keep the intent. And sometimes, unfortunately, that whole chunk needs to come out because it actually does not follow the rules that you had set out. I did a book with my son. He illustrated it and I was writing it, and it was about the realm of monsters, right? And how this character had to travel all the way through the realm of monsters to get back out and get back home. And that was one again where I had to figure out what were the rules. It's like, okay, so what can monsters do? What can't they? How do you pass through one level of the realm to the next one? Other characters that were human turned monster, how did they work into things? And I mean, this is a children's book level, so it didn't get anything crazy deep. But regardless, you wanted to make sure that nobody's like, hold on a second. In the last realm, when they did this, they got through it. How come it doesn't work here or whatever that is? So it is, no matter who you're writing for, it's important to make sure that you are still writing with that level of like thought so that even a 10-year-old that's reading the book that's written for them doesn't go, hold on, that's not allowed. Now I'm confused. Because there's nothing worse than feeling confused in the middle of a book that you were enjoying.
Yeah. Okay, so question again about the what I'm doing here.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you can tell, like, their face is kind of like I'm making it very, almost like evil in a way with the
Yeah,
shadow. Do you
yeah.
think that's appropriate here, or I'm just trying to like, what's the emotional tone that I would want? Is it too much of an emotional, like, where their face is like,
No, I think
um,
I mean, we kinda described it as not quite murderer, but pretty close. So I think that that's probably within the realm of how they would be acting at this point in time. Because this is getting quite close now to the end when the door does open for them. This is kind of that last real, like, kick at it. So I think that that's appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to, like, evoke, like, a real frantic kind of, like, as if they're spending every, ounce of, like, the snapping of the, uh, screwdriver almost is, like, emblematic or symbolic of their brain snapping, like, their, like, sanity snapping kind of, uh
100%. Yeah.
so
No, I think that
okay.
that's a good, yeah, I think that this is that frantic moment, right? These last few panels on page 4 really are that, like, total breakdown before they kinda give up and give in.
Right. And so to your point of, like, that last kind of giving up, we initially you had mentioned in the script where, uh, Sam slinks down against the wall, or against the door, and we initially did have it on this, page 4 here, and we talked about
Move
what it
yeah,
woulda looked like
5.
if we shifted it over to page 5,
Yep,
'cause I think to your point of just how the energy of this page, like, I wanted to have that extra beat, and we decided, yeah, like, it
agreed.
needed something. Um, so
No, I like how we've talked about how each page as a snapshot has an energy to it. I like that we decided to keep this page fully in that, like, frantic, let me in, freaking out, edge of my edge of the rope kind of, energy, all through the panels on this page, and let the slump happen on the top of page 5.
yeah, exactly. So, I I can't really say that there's too many, like, these 2 last panels, um, they were already there, like, I
I
think
agree.
the pose was already there. Maybe you have, like, the hair kind of, standing up a bit, um, and then just, like, figuring out, like, what is the shadow gonna look like here, on the back of the person, like, that's really more or less what I have to think about. But for the most part, the pose and the composition works really well here, so it's like, a little bit of actually, if you look at perspective here, it's as if the person's kind of in a bit of a, like, a fisheye, so
Mhm.
whatever is further away from them, is going to be a little bit, uh more normal maybe, like, what's closer to you or the viewer, it's gonna be a little bit more skewed, right? So, like, you can see, like, their head's gonna be a little bit bigger because the door itself is kind of, uh, at that angle where it's widening quite a bit. Um it wouldn't do this be that extreme if you were looking at, like, if you were on a step stool looking over the person's shoulder, it wouldn't be that much of an extreme. But if you had, let's say you're looking through a camera and it was taking a bit of the lens
Yes.
was like fisheye, like
Mhm.
it was making it a little bit more extreme. So that's, I think the idea being that the door at this point, it's almost like it's like, like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Like it
Picking a fight.
for sure. What's that?
I said it's picking a fight with them.
Yeah, yeah, like, you think you can beat me? I've already won, like,
Yeah.
kinda that kinda thing. That's it's a subtle thing, but we wanna make sure that we put stuff like that in there, and so, I've shown before, like, perspective. I'll bring this out real quickly just so
And what I really like about these, like, panels, especially on page 4, is the way that these sound effects are becoming textures, right? So they're, like, kind of like the nose and the uhs and the huffs and stuff are built right into the visual. It really makes it feel that much more frantic and, like, unhinged because it's, like, everywhere around is these feelings. I really like the way that it looks as a texture.
so you're if I was looking, like, the perspective is, you see this black, dot I just that's kinda where the perspective is, so that means it's like it's probably, I would even argue, I would have to make this even a little bit more extreme, this panel a little bit more, and I can do that digitally, it's much easier to do something like that, so I can
Mhm.
take perspective here and then really go into it.
I think that that works also with where we are in the story, right? Where it's like, the banging on the door, the staring up at what feels like this massive infinite presence that is like sucking his life basically. I think that that actually really that skewed perspective really works.
Yeah, so you have to know a little bit about, like, how it's changing the anatomy and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and so, like, where would the doorknob be? It would probably be closer to here. So that means it's almost like the door is like hovering over this person, right? Like almost like they're like to the degree where the door feels like it's like coming out a bit, right? That's the feeling I'm getting by looking at this, where um, and the person maybe is
It's got that
screaming.
funhouse mirror feel, right? Like
Yeah.
everything just feels like off.
So let me just see what it looked like prior. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna do something. So here's a beautiful part of this. I'm going to, again, like, you, if you're doing this on some kind of paper that's um, where you can do a couple of different ideas, because I still like this original one too. It's less of a it's more of a dead on just
Mhm.
staring at the person's back. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, do you like the
Well, I
more
feel like the original one is more Sam and the new one is more Door, right? So
Mm,
I kind of like the new one because it's almost like they're in the middle of a fight. So it's like, in the panel above, it's very much Sam, and then the door fights back, and then Sam's back at it, and then eventually on the beginning of page 5, the door wins, right? So it almost has that kind of back and forth of like who is applying the
mhm.
pressure at the moment. So
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep both of them just because
yeah,
I think that, to your point earlier about, like, walking away from something and then coming back to it, um,
they
so
definitely
that
both work.
yeah. Yeah, they do. I do agree that they both kind of give
They
a
just tell the
one of them is
stories slightly differently, but they both work well and are in tone with the rest of it. They just sort of change the main character slightly. Now that one we spent a lot of time on last time because it changed so much that we really had to think through the new kind of feel for it, and I really like where that went with the door almost becoming the panel.
yeah, that's right. That's a really good point, and also, like, almost like the step before they've completely given
Yeah,
up
like one
on.
last big, like, push, right? Like, maybe I can, through brute strength, break through this thing.
I actually read it differently. I don't know if it matters.
I don't think it
At the end
does,
of the
because
day.
honestly, we're leaving that open to interpretation as well, like, what does happen, right, with the darkness,
Mhm.
etcetera, and then, we go somewhere else, but it's like, "Well, what happened to Sam?" We're not giving you that answer.
If it somehow changes the story a bit, but I don't know.
So, it is true that that panel before it does change the feeling of the panel next to it, right? So for me, that panel with that kind of angle, the perspective one that we just did, does make it feel more like Sam has one more fight left in them. Like the door kind of was like in his face and Sam pushed back on it, like, no, get away. Like, stop. Right. Whereas the other one where Sam is big and going, I more believe in the next panel that it's kinda like, "You know what? Done." Right?
Pain.
So, that's my interpretation is that the door looking big motivates like that, like, "Stop, get away, push, push, push," and the door and Sam looking big is more of the like, "You know what? Fine." So,
I see it opposite. That's funny. I see the one now that's in place. I feel like it's like the door is like Sam almost is like a kid
yeah.
compared to the door. That's how I'm reading it. It's like the
Yep.
door is almost breathing forward, going, "What are you gonna do about it?" And Sam's like, "Ah," like,
Yeah.
like, "Ah," you're like kind of expelling and then going to that last, like,
Mhm.
"Fine, I give up." Whereas, um this one, I feel like it could be like that one last push of like, "Rah!" And
Yeah.
then because it's the door and Sam are equal in that case, right? But I mean, that's perspective, I guess. Like if you felt that the other one uh, was more of like a last uh,
Yeah, I mean, I guess in
hurrah.
my mind, I was looking at it almost like a boxing match isn't gonna be the right term, but you're gonna know what I mean. So, like, it's like we start with, like, Sam dropped the
Mm,
first punches, then the door pushed back and was like, "Ugh, I'm coming at you," and then Sam gave one last, like, "No, this
mm,
is me," with the hoofs at the end, and then finally couldn't break through and just gave up. So that's where the big door made me think that that was, like, the door taking a stand and then Sam being like, "No," but then the door ultimately wins.
yeah.
Um, Whereas this one, like you said, it feels almost like just like a last, like, scream of, "Ah," and then just like, "Fine." So, both work, they just are slightly different. This might be one of those cases where we go away. When we start our next episode to do page 5, we start, with a discussion on that panel and see how we both feel about it now that we've walked away from it, because I honestly don't have a strong answer, right? There isn't one that I'm like, "No, that one 100%, other one doesn't work." Both of them work for different reasons.